The forest was thick, with the scent of pine and damp earth. As you pushed through the underbush, the path should have been shorter. At least that's what you thought when you decided to cut through the woods, instead of taking the long, winding road to your grandmother's house. But now, with towering trees pressing in and the shadows stretching long into the fading afternoon light, you were starting to regret it. You took another careful step forward, only for the ground beneath you to vanish. A sharp snap echoed through the trees, and before you could react, your body lunged into the air. The world spun as the rope tightened around your ankle, yanking you upright. Your breath had left your lungs in a surprised yelp, and within moments, you were dangling from a tree branch, swaying within the breeze. Panic shot through you. "What the hell?" you gasped, reaching for the rope, only for the wound to tighten, and your attempts only made you spin helplessly. A rustle through the trees sent a jolt of fear throughout you. Somebody was coming. And then, two figures emerged. The first was tall and lean, and carried himself with lazy grace like a cat that had just woken up from a nap. His long silver hair cascaded down his shoulders, and his pointed ears peeking out beneath it. His clothing was fine but practical, leather and dark cloth clearly meant for moving through the forest unseen. He raised a single brow as he untook in your predicament, a smirk curling on his lips. The second figure was almost his complete opposite. He stood rigidly, his posture perfect, his arms crossed tightly over his chest. His hair was a shade darker, tied back neatly. His emerald eyes were sharp with suspicion. His clothing was pristine, his tunic pressed, and he exuded an air of control. Though beneath all that control, you could see the faintest flicker of uncertainty. Elves. You didn't even know elves were real. The older one was the first to speak. Well, what do we have here?" His voice was smooth, with a teasing undertone as he stepped forward. "A human? In our woods? Caught in our trap? How unexpected." "Let me down!" you demanded, struggling against the rope again. "That depends," he said, tilting his head. "You see, this trap wasn't meant for humans. It was meant for poachers." The younger one interrupted, his voice sharp, his green eyes narrowed as he took a stiff step forward. "Or intruders. You should not be here." You struggled. "I'm not a poacher or an intruder. You hesitated. Would they even believe you? "I'm cutting through the woods to get to my grandma's house." The older elf blinked, and then to your surprise he let out a soft chuckle. "Your grandmother's house," he repeated, amused dancing in his eyes. "How terribly quaint, like a storybook." The younger elf didn't seem as entertained, his frown deepened. "You shouldn't be in these woods, human. They don't belong here." "Well, I didn't know that," you shot back, frustration growing. "I didn't even know you things existed." That seemed to catch them both off guard. The younger elf frowned, turning thoughtful, and even the older one looked surprised mildly. "Did you hear that, Alden?" The older elf turned to his brother, placing a hand dramatically over his heart. "They didn't even know we existed, and that wounds me deeply." Alden, the younger one, if that was his name, exhaled sharply. "This is not a joke, Andor." Andor, the older twin, only grinned. "It's always a joke if you let it be one." "Enough," Alden snapped. He turned to face you, his sharp eyes scanning your face. "If what you say is true, if you were merely passing through, then we will let you go, but you must swear to not tell anybody about us." "Swear it," Andor added playfully, "or we'll be forced to keep you." Your stomach twisted at the thought. I swear, you said quickly. I won't tell anyone, just let me down already. Alden nodded. Very well. He stepped forward, drawing a slender dagger from his belt. With a single, precise slash, the ropes were severed. You barely had time to brace yourself before you tumbled into the ground, landing with an undignified oof. Andor winced. Ah. Should have got you. My bad. You groaned, rubbing your sore limbs. Yeah, you're bad. Alden offered you a hand. Despite his rigid demeanor, he helped you to your feet with a surprising gentleness. His fingers were cool and his grip was strong. You should go, he said firmly. The woods are not safe for humans. Thanks, you muttered, brushing the dirt off your clothes. You know, Andor mused, crossing his arms. Since we've met and you've already sworn to secrecy, I could escort you and make sure there's no other traps getting in your way. Maybe show you a few good elven secrets while I'm at it. His silver eyes gleamed with mischief. Alden let out an exhausted sigh. Brother, no. What? Andor grinned. They're interested, and they're very cute. Your face heated up. What? Enough, Alden repeated, his expression turning steely. Do you wish, Andor? I'm returning back home, but you may do as you wish. Andor waved him off. Yes, go be boring somebody else. Then he turned back to you, smirking. So, what do you say? Wouldn't you like a guide? You hesitated. This was crazy. You'd just been dangling upside down, thinking you were about to die, and now a ridiculously good-looking elf was flirting with you. But if he knew the safest way out of the woods, it might not be the worst idea. I guess, he said slowly. If you actually know the way, then fine. Andor grinned. Excellent choice. Alden gave you one last look before turning away, disappearing into the trees like a ghost. Now, walking beside Andor felt strange. For one, he moved like the forest belonged to him. Every step he took was effortlessly, barely disturbing the leaves beneath his feet. While you stumbled over roots and nearly tripped over uneven ground every few minutes. He, of course, found this hilarious, of course. Careful, he said as you caught yourself for the third time. Wouldn't want you taking another tumble. I'm not sure I'd be able to resist the urge to catch you dramatically in my arms. You shot him a glare, swatting away at a low-hanging branch. Yeah, well, considering you didn't catch me last time, I wouldn't hold my breath. Andor pressed a hand over his heart, feigning hurt. Harsh. The forest stretched endlessly, as the towering trees blocked out the most of the sky. Despite the time that had passed, it didn't seem like you were getting any closer to the edge of the woods. You glanced around uneasy. Are you sure we're going the right way? Andor hummed. More or less. More or less? You asked. He waved a hand. We're taking the Centric route. He stopped walking. What? He turned to face you, a little smirk tugging at his lips. Come on now, little human, don't be so stiff. If I had let you go on your own, you would have been blundered into a trap or worse. One of the less friendly folk in this woods. Like who? You asked warily. Andor's smirk widened. Oh, you know. Spirits, hunters, possibly a few enchanted beasts that would love to make a meal of an unsuspecting traveler. Your stomach twisted. Great. Thanks for the warning. That's why I'm here. He gave you a slow, knowing look. To protect you. You rolled your eyes. I'll be fine. Just Please tell me how the hell to get out of here. Patience, he said smoothly. Besides, now that you know of us, wouldn't you rather learn a little bit more? You hesitated, as frustrating he could be. You couldn't deny that you were curious. I mean, learning that elves were real and magic was real was one thing, but you'd already stepped into this world you hadn't even known existed, and part of you wanted to know more. Andor seemed to sense your wavering resolve. Come on, he said, extending a hand. Let me show you something. He stared at his hand before reluctantly taking it. His skin was cold against yours, and his grip was firm but not forceful. He led you through the trees with an ease, guiding you over the uneven terrain like he had walked this path 1,000 billion times before you. Eventually the trees thinned, revealing something you hadn't expected. A hidden village. Nestled between the massive trees was a breathtaking elven settlement glowing softly in the dimming light. The homes weren't built on the ground, but above it, woven seamlessly into the towering trees, wooden bridges connecting structures, and lanterns hung like fireflies, casting golden light. You stared at it. Wow, this is beautiful. I had no idea this was here. Of course you didn't, he said lightly. Humans aren't meant to. A few elves moved through the village, some pausing to glance at you with sharp, asserting eyes. You suddenly felt very out of place. Are we allowed to be here? You asked wearily. Andor grinned. Probably not. He shot him a look. Then why did you bring me? Because I wanted to, he said simply. Before you could even respond, a familiar voice approached. Alden. The younger twin's face was unreadable, but there was tension in his posture. Andor, his gaze flickered to you. You brought them here? He sighed dramatically. Oh, come on now, Alden, don't be such a bore. Alden ignored him, turning to you. You shouldn't be here. If the elders find out, they won't. Andor cut him off, speaking breezily. Besides, aren't you a little curious? This is the first human to stumble into our lands in years. Doesn't that intrigue you even a little? Alden's jaw tightened. It's dangerous. For them or for us? Andor asked, arching her brow. Alden didn't answer. He shifted uncomfortably. I didn't mean to cause trouble. I just want to go home. Andor's expression flickered for a moment, then he gave you the usual smirk. Alright, little human. I'll take you back home now. But as you walked, you couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. Maybe, just maybe your paths would cross with Andor again. Or maybe it would cross with Alden. And when it did, you weren't sure if you'd be able to walk away the second time. Maybe you'd want to stay here. Forever.